Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks, and welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist DT from WeatherRisk.com, the commander of chaos, the colonel of confusion, the captain of catastrophe. It's midnight, actually about 12:15, December 4, December 5. Let's talk This Week in Weather. A lot to talk about here, a lot of topics here. First, we're talking about help for the drought in the southeastern U.S. Pattern change is underway as forecasted. Yes, it's going to be cold, but extreme cold? Not really. And so we have to talk about that and the hype a little bit. And then the different events here on December 11, 12, 14, 15, and December 17. So let's get right to it. All right, this here is the drought map for as of November 22nd. And there's also been one updated for the 28th, but it's about the same. It's not really much different here. And you can see where the drought area was. Much of Mississippi, much of Alabama, Georgia, the western South Carolina, southwest North Carolina, and much of Tennessee. So it's been pretty significant, this drought. Now, this is the rainfall over the past 7 days. And again, they had some more rain on Sunday in case you weren't looking. So this is not including the Sunday rain they had today. But as you can see here, let me get my marker out so we can point this out here. And see these red areas in this? That's red areas 6 inches of rain or greater. And a lot of these dark yellow areas, that's 4 or 5 inches of rain. And again, that does include the rain for today. So this was all pretty good rain here in the last 24 hours. And more rain is coming. Now, this is the system coming up here for Tuesday. They have some more rain. If you look at the radar now in the area, and that'll continue into tomorrow morning. But then the bigger system is the one for Tuesday, and that'll bring rain into North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and up into New England. So this is a pretty big system here. And of course, we can see the Arctic cold front right here. There's the Arctic cold front. You can see it right there. So the front is coming southward and eastward as the rain comes in. But so the front that's coming, and it'll bring significant rain here. And in terms of the rainfall amounts, this is rainfall up from the Sunday morning up until Wednesday. And you can see, and that includes rain which was falling tonight and this evening in these areas of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. But notice again the areas of rains here. They're pretty significant rain. Obviously, the heaviest rains are down here, as you can see. But the drought areas, that's some areas up to 2 inches of rain. And then in Virginia, where it's been pretty dry as well, in North Carolina, anywhere from a 1 to 2, 1.5, 1 to 2 inches of rain in here. And the same thing in this area as well. So pretty good significant rain, not drought smashing rains, but given what they saw last week and this rain's coming up, it's going to help. It's going to make a big difference. So they need double this, of course, to get out of the drought, but getting 6 inches of rain in some areas, 8 inches of rain over a course of 6, 7 days, that's pretty good. So now let's talk about the hype here a little bit. This came out last week from the Drudge Report, unfortunately. I have my issues with Drudge. I think they engage in a lot of fake news and hype. But I have to tell you, you also see this on a lot of progressive sites as well. A lot of people taking what they think science, and they're taking a piece of information and they fit it to their own agenda. I've seen this on Slate.com as well. With some people who are just out of the world, panic-stricken global warming fanatics. And we're seeing it was a Climate Depot. And a Climate Depot is a denier site. It's a skeptic site. And what they did, as you can see, this was on Drudge last week. They had this map up showing the extreme cold that you can see here. And then, of course, they had record cold going to be shattered. I mean, that's just not going to happen. We see this sort of stuff, and it's unfortunate. But the problem is it affects us as meteorologists. Because as the data comes in and it's not going to be quite that severely cold, I haven't been calling for a severe cold, but I'm sure somebody's going to say, "Hey, Dave, where's the severe cold?" So, it's a problem. Here's another example of that. This also on Drudge and some other places, talking about the big global temperature drop, the biggest one in many years. And of course, that turned out to be that's not true as well. This is the global temperatures based upon satellite, the lower atmosphere. Now, this was the El Nino from 97, 98. You see this? And of course, we had a spike in global temperatures because that's what El Nino does. It drops a whole bunch of energy into the upper levels and the low levels of the atmosphere. And then after the El Nino ended, we had a big drop here when the El Nino ended. Same sort of thing here. Here's the 2015-16 El Nino. Right here you can see it. And here's a big drop as the El Nino comes to an end. So we are seeing a big drop in global temperatures, but it's not unheard of, and it happened with the last El Nino event. So this sort of thing is not that uncommon. So again, people like to take the information and spin it for their own political agenda as opposed to doing the science. All right, let's take a look at the actual pattern right now. This is as of December 4th. You can see up here the headline, December 4th, and we can see right in here. And lots of things to talk about here in the pattern. Here's our Omega Ridge. You can see it forming right here, right in this area, the Omega Ridge. Notice the polar vortex, however, it's right over the North Pole. So that means we have a positive Arctic oscillation, and we have this trough here in Alaska. So that means we have a positive EPO. And we also have a positive NAO, big 500 low here over Alaska, so that's a positive NAO, and we have a trough on the western United States, so a negative PNA. So every possible way you could want this to be a bad setup, this is the atmosphere December 4th. You want every one of those four things to be completely different to get a big winter pattern. So that's where we are as of December 4th. So we have a lot of things to change here in the atmosphere over the next week to 2 weeks. All right, now this is the overall pattern as of 72 hours. Now what happens is, as we talked about before, the Omega Ridge, which we again will highlight here, okay, that is driving and expanding into the Arctic regions. As you can see, like this, it's going in this direction. And of course, what that does is that forces the polar vortex to split, and one piece is going to go here, and another piece is going to go in here. The trough is in the western United States, and we have a ridge over the southeastern U.S. So the cold front will first come southward with the cold air in here, and then it will spread eastward. And of course, the NAO is still quite strongly positive with that upper low there. So, but this is December 7th. Now, next slide. This is as of December 9th. Now, the cold front has finally, the Arctic front, reached the east coast, as you can see. Here's the Arctic front. Let me call it my marker. We can see it quite nicely right there. There's the Arctic front, the trough moving through. But again, we still have our Omega Ridge right here. Notice that it is still rapidly expanding, as you can see in this direction. Keep going this way. Notice the polar vortex has finally appeared. We have one polar vortex here, another one over in central Russia, northern Russia, another one in northern Canada. So that's a significant development. The polar vortex has split. So that's good news. And as a result, the Arctic oscillation, you can see here, let me change the color of my marker so we can highlight this a little better. Yeah, we'll go here. The Arctic oscillation has now gone neutral. The EPO is still positive. The NAO is still neutral, and the PNA is still neutral conditions as well. Notice the big trough here coming in on the west coast. That's our next big feature. So we're beginning to see the pattern change. Now, here's the cold front at the surface coming in on the evening of December 8th into the morning of the 9th. Very strong winds here, as you can see. Look at these winds, quite impressive. A lot of lake effect coming into the western Great Lakes and strong winds. The Arctic front blows on through very nicely. Not a surprise. All the models are handling that quite well. Here are temperatures in the Mid-Atlantic region for the morning of December 9th. Very cold in the Shenandoah Valley, West Virginia, Ohio, places like that. And then the afternoon high temperatures on Friday evening. Temperatures only go up a few degrees in Richmond, only up a few degrees in Washington, D.C., New York, Philly. And temperatures go up really not much in eastern portions of West Virginia. A very cold day indeed, given the fact there's no snow on the ground. And now this is our pattern here as of December 12th. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, we're seeing some important features here. Here's our Omega Ridge, right there, very clear. And we can see our polar vortex. Here's one of them, and here's the other one. So we have a split. So that's great news. We want to see that. Check. We want to see that. Here's our vortex. The Arctic oscillation has now gone negative. That's good. We want to see that. The EPO, though, that is still positive. There's our EPO feature right here. We don't want to see that. And what that does is that prevents the ridge. When you have an EPO feature, let me clear the marker. We can do this again. This feature here prevents us from getting that big ridge coming down from Canada. So as a result, we don't get a direct plunge of cold air. And because of that, we have a trough here over the western United States, and we still have a bit of a southeast ridge. So it's getting colder, and the cold air is spreading across all of Canada. I mean, this is some impressively cold air, but it's not an ideal pattern. And we can still see our very strong Pacific jet, as you can notice here in this area. You see the strong Pacific jet here and here, very tightly compacted line. So the pattern is changing, but it's not there yet. It's not a great pattern yet. Getting there. I'll look at our cold air. Where is the heart of the cold air here as of December 11th to the 16th? In the Arctic region in Western Canada. Now this isn't bad because we need to get this cold first, before the US gets cold. So this is a big change. Again, we want to see this. This is good news. We want Canada to get cold first before the Arctic air really plunge into the US. If Canada doesn't get cold first, I don't give a hoot in hell what the pattern is showing. It's not going to get cold in the US. So that's a good sign. But so far that piece is still up there because the pattern is still doing, let me change my marker so we can see this. The pattern is still doing this. So that's what the cold air is. That's what the issue is. Okay. Now these are our temperatures for Saturday and for morning and Saturday afternoon. Pretty cold in Richmond and the Piedmont areas, teens in West Virginia, and then afternoon highs staying in the 30s. A cold, windy day. This is for Sunday morning, another cold day. Now let's take a look going out of the pattern here. This is December 12th, a week from today, and we can see our polar vortex. Hooray! Yay! We like the polar vortex. It's dropped down here into north central Canada. There's our Omega Ridge. You can see this right here. There's the Omega Ridge right in there. But again, here's our EPO, which is still positive. And what that does is that splits the jet. So we have the Arctic jet coming down this way, but the Pacific jet's doing, we want both jets to come out this way to get the Arctic plunge into the US. Instead, we have a split. One is here and the other one is here. And now we have a short wave which has appeared over Texas. You can see this feature right here. See that feature? And that's going to cause the next area of low pressure to develop on the front. And we can see what that looks like. Here's the wave developing on December 12th. Now, we have cold air over Virginia and Mid-Atlantic region at the start, but because the low probably goes up in this direction, any frozen precipitation quickly changes over to rain, and the temperatures warm back up into the 40s. So we have the cold air in place, but the low is taking the wrong track. We need the low to do this, and it's going up Kentucky. So that's a good snow for the Ohio Valley and for Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, New York State, and maybe New England, but it's not great. Now, on the other hand, is take a look at the next Arctic high here. So there's more cold air coming. That's good, if you like cold air. And here are our morning temperatures for Wednesday morning, December 14th. The cold air has moved back into the Mid-Atlantic region once again. So let's take a look at December 14th. Here's our next threat. Now, this is the 276-hour European ensemble mean. And again, we can see our Omega Ridge. There it is, not going anywhere. Okay, and we have our two polar vortexes, one here and the other one here. That's great. So the Arctic oscillation is now neutral. This is pushed up in here and it split the polar vortex. So we now have the negative Arctic oscillation. Good. We want to see that. That's check. We still have the positive EPO. That's not what we want to see. We have a neutral NAO here. It's not positive, it's not negative, it's neutral. And we don't have the PNA, a little bit of a ridge here, but not here. The ridge is split. So it's a neutral PNA. And there's our next system. We can see a big trough here over the plain states headed for the Mississippi Valley. That's going to generate some sort of low pressure area on the East Coast at some point. So let's see what actually happens. Now we'll close in on this a little bit. This is December 16th here, and the model is showing that trough a little better here. So we can see our polar vortex, and we can see this in more detail. Here's our Omega Ridge very nicely, and again we have a split. Very distinct split. The Arctic jet's doing this, but the Pacific jet's doing this. And that could be a stormy pattern, but the negative, we don't have a negative NAO yet. So we're going to get some sort of development here. The question is what type of development. Now, the European model wants to develop the next wave here over the Gulf Coast with cold air in place over the Mid-Atlantic states. So this could be a snowstorm. Maybe, but the low has to stay south. It has to stay like this. So, and there's no more cold air, high pressure to the north. So the European has that fairly far south, but not all the models do that. So we'll have to wait and see if that's in fact the case. Now, if we look at 240 hours, where's the cold air? It's still up here in Canada. You can see it very nicely. And again, that's because the overall pattern is still doing this and this. So the cold air gets blocked up into here. It's spreading eastward and it's slowly coming south, but we have to get that EPO out of here, and so far that thing is not showing any signs of going away. At 312 hours, we have a very nice trough here, December 17th, another possible system. Maybe this is connected to the one on the 16th, so we'll see. But so we have a situation for the 14th, and maybe another one on the 16th or 17th. Look at the trough here, very sharply, very clear trough right here, maybe some sort of low pressure here on the 17th. So we have one on the 14th, 15th, and then another possibility on the 16th and 17th. Two possibilities. So things are looking like possibilities. And of course, here is the 360-hour pattern. The Omega Ridge is still there. The Arctic Oscillation is still negative, so that's good. We want to see that. Let me clear that out again so you can see where I placed it. Then the Omega Ridge is here. You can see that very nicely. Still right there. We have our two polar vortexes. That's good. One here, one here. The Arctic Oscillation is there. The EPO is still positive. The NAO is neutral, and the PNA is neutral. So it's a cold pattern. It's not a monstrously cold pattern. It's not a monster plunge of cold air into the U.S., but it's definitely a change towards winter. In summary, we have a great that the polar vortex has finally left Siberia. Great. It's great that the polar vortex forms in North America. The Omega Ridge, however, is producing a positive EPO, a low pressure trough in the jet stream over the Gulf of Alaska. And the positive EPO means no massive ridge on the west coast, there's no sustained cross-polar flow, and there's no positive PNA pattern. The positive EPO means the trough in the Arctic jet is still over the western US and western Canada. So that's not a great sign, but it's not horrible. And there's no sign of a sustained and negative NAO. Right now it's neutral at best. So that's where we stand. We'll have more updates later on this week. I'll see you on the website, on the Facebook page. This is meteorologist DT from weatherrisk.com. I'll talk to you soon.